good morning, or good afternoon, I guess, or maybe good evening, whichever it is for you. Welcome to our short and sweet introduction to change models. And you will find out very soon that I love change models, and you get tired of hearing me talking about it before the end of class. But this is Monita, and we are going to introduce you to this fabulous tool in program design. So our program design process is divided into very distinct steps, even though the process, as we say often, is iterative. Today we're going to talk about the second step in that process, which is creating a change model for your program. And once we have determined the problem and the extent of the problem, and we start to look at potential solutions, we want to establish how we are going to go from our current state to our desired outcome. And that's where our change model becomes important. A change model can be called many different things. Some people call it a logic model, a theory of change, and an M&E framework. Different names, but basically the same essential tool. Basically, a change model or a logic model is an instrument that helps us to critically think through using our available resources to get to the desired results. So a map to how we are going to get from where we are to where we want to be. A logic model helps us to avoid wishful thinking or leaps of faith. Some people, when they design their program, have very clear ideas about the activities they want to do, but in terms of how that will lead to the desired outcome, it becomes more doubtful, and sometimes miracles have to occur in order for the program to have the desired outcome, simply because the inputs were not logical with what you want to get out of your program. So program design is often based more on the fun, creative process of thinking about activities and solutions, or the priorities of donors, rather than a very thoughtful analysis of the steps that must be taken to achieve the desired outcomes that we wish for our programs. So formulating a logic model forces us to rigorously examine our desired outcomes and look at the available resources and see how is the best route to get to where we want to go. It will also help us to identify how we can logically use our resources in targeted activities so that our intended audience will have the necessary knowledge and ability to make changes in behavior that will lead to the desired outcome. So we want to try to reduce the need for a miracle as much as possible when we're designing our programs. So let's look at what the logic model is, and a brief history may help us. Logic models actually began to be used back in the 1970s, and we can find the roots of our current logic models in the private sector, looking at quality performance management, the public sector also government programs, and the need to focus on results and to link investments to results, not just activities. The nonprofit sector has used logic models to help improve programs and produce more efficient results. The United Way, for example, has a very nice resource on developing logic models. USAID also has used the log frame since the 1970s, which is very similar to a logic model or change models, and many international donor agencies insist on when you turn in a proposal that you have a logic model for your program. So basically a logic model as we currently use it is a snapshot or a small visual image of what we are hoping to accomplish in our program. It's a depiction of, in its simplest form, if-then relationships. In other words, if we invest these resources, then we can carry out these activities. And if we are able to accomplish these activities, then we will be able to reach these participants. And if we reach these participants, then our participants can expect an increase in knowledge or a change in attitude or skills. And if our participants have this knowledge and an increase in skills, then they will be more likely to change a behavior or a policy or something that is required in order for us to achieve the desired results or the impact that we want from our program. So in its simplest form, a logic model looks at inputs, in other words, the resources that go into the program. We look at that then leads to outputs, and that is the activities that the program undertakes. And this leads to the changes or benefits of the results of our program that we desire, or the outcome. So it's a logical chain of connections that shows where we want to go with our program. So let's take an everyday example. Let's say you have a headache. Now, what is the desired outcome? You have a headache, what do you want? Well, of course, you want to feel better. You want to get rid of your headache. So let's go back. What input do you need? What would you need in order to help you to feel better and to get rid of your headache? Well, first of all, you'd have to get probably some pills. Past experience tells you that if you take an aspirin or you take Motrin, your headache will go away. And so then once you have the pills, what do you have to do? You have to take the pills, of course. So that's your activity. You take the pills, that's the output, and then hopefully the outcome is that you feel better. Let's do another example, a little bit more complex. Let's say you want to take a family vacation because you want to create family bonds, you want to have a good time, you want to be able to get along for the rest of the year. So you need to have a good fun time sometime during the year. So you decide to go camping. So what are the inputs that you would need to have for a family camping vacation? First of all, you'd have to have the family members, you'd have to get a budget together, you'd have to have some means of transportation to get to the camping site, you'd have to have your camping equipment. And then once you had those resources, then you could do the necessary outputs or do the necessary activities to take your camping trip. And that would be to drive to the park, set up your camp, cook, all of those fun things that go into a camping vacation. And then hopefully the intended outcomes would take place. So let's stop and do a short exercise. I want you to stop the slides and brainstorm a simple logic model for your team's project. First of all, what resources will go into the program? Those are your inputs. What activities will what activities will the program undertake? And those will be your outputs. And finally, what changes or benefits do you expect would result from these resources and activities, and those will be your outcome. So think a little bit about those three elements, and once you're finished, restart your slide.